Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we got play of props here as these postseason play-in tournament games continue to roll on. We're looking at the Eastern Conference here for Wednesday's slate. We've also got best bets up, so you want to make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us all postseason. Also head to thelines.com. Use everything we're putting up on the site, including that prop finder tool that's under the NBA tab there. You can see a nice little chart to make sure you're getting all the best odds and lines available to you from these bets, giving us from these sports books, I should say, giving us bets this postseason. Nate, let's kick it off with your first player prop from that Heat and 76ers game.
Yeah, I mean, while I like the Heat to potentially cover here, I'd taken Maxey over 23.5 points because he's just a problem for this Heat defense. There's no good matchup for him for the Heat, especially with Rozier coming into this one banged up. We don't know if he's going to be able to chase Maxey when he is, if he is active. 3 this season, 32 points, 9 assists per game on 52% shooting. That includes 2 without Joel Embiid for Maxey. The one with him, he goes for 37 points on nearly 60% shooting, 37 and 11, by the way. He's been diming up against this Heat team. I think those dimes are going to evaporate a little bit now that we're in playoff, one and done situation. But the scoring is going to be there, and the Sixers are going to be completely dependent on it because the way the Heat can take away easier looks for other guys, but also the floor just opens up for Maxey with Embiid. And this is the classic misnomer that we see books put him at like 28.5 when Embiid is out. And it's like, whoa, like Maxey is not necessarily going to thrive in that number one role, but with and without Embiid, 129 offensive rating. So extremely efficient versus 112 without him. His 3-point percentage goes up to 40% from 32% as the defense just gets sucked into the gravity of Joel Embiid. He's driving to the basket a lot more consistently now. He's averaging 10 points per game on drives post All-Star break, but he's been more efficient. He's up to shooting 58% on those drives with Embiid back because the lane is more open, because the opportunities are much better when he's getting the ball in position to just go downhill off DHO or off whatever Embiid can generate. And he doesn't pass the ball once he starts driving, which is what you love to see if you're taking the points. I mean, again, the Heat have only allowed 23 assists per game in the playoffs last year, which is an extremely low number. So I don't really expect the assists to be a factor here, but only Zion and Cam Thomas have shot at a higher rate when they're driving than Maxey since the All-Star break. So he is truly in I'm going to get mine mode, and that's what the Sixers need from him.
Yeah. That's where I would lean for where I expect these points to come from in this game for Philly. It's going to be some Maxey, and he's going to be a lot more of a spot up shooter than he is when he's not playing with Joel. That's why you see that 3-point percentage so much better for Maxey when Joel is in there. A little bit worse off the pull up, not quite the 3-point shooter that pull up, off of the dribble, like a guy like obviously say Trae Young or Steph Curry is. So that you really do want to set him up a little bit more, and that's what Joel provides for him. So yeah, there's an obvious correlation between Joel being in there and Maxey being a little bit more lethal on offense. So I'm going to go over to a bet that we've made quite a bit, I feel like, on player props over the years now, which is Trae Young playing against a team like Chicago or a team like Miami or what have you, right? And we take an under on his points, but I actually like the over on his assists a little bit better. Over 10.5 assists for Trae in this game against Chicago. If you look at his chart versus Chicago over the last 5 that they've played, pretty obvious what's going on here. He's averaging fewer than like about 20 points per game in that time frame, and then the assists are all the way up at about 12.5, and that's one game that was sort of the outlier for him where he dropped 34 and only had 6 assists. So I kind of understand if you want to take the points and assists combined for him. I feel like normally in a game where the books are like, oh, Trae Young has to win, you're going to see like 26.5 points for him. It's only at 23.5, so it's a little bit scarier, and it's actually juiced to the under rather than the over here at 23.5. So you still kind of like, it's a little bit lower than you might like, but it's not only what he does against Chicago, but what he's doing since he's come back from injury as well, right? Which is clearly being a lot more of a facilitator. We have not seen DeJounte Murray's points go down really since Trae came in. Now, obviously he's not scoring like 40 and taking 28 shots or 44 shots like he did once with Trae out. So he's a lot more efficient because he's playing off ball. And now you're going to see that from Chicago that they are going to give it up a little bit more from 3. They're going to give it up to spot up shooters, and Trae's going to have a lot of options coming off of that pick and roll as the ball handler because of the way that this Bulls team sells out on defense, right? They go for steals. It's why they give up. They're one of the worst 3-point defenses in the league. But those 3-point shots are coming up a lot of spot ups, right? They give up a lot of stuff to shooting guards, to guys out on the wing, above the break threes, all that kind of stuff. So while Trey's always a little bit, he's always liable to go off. Like if he decides that he's taking 22 shots this game and like 11 threes, then yeah, taking under 23.5 points is a bit scarier. But I think the assists either way, because since he's come back, the potential assists, like he's reached like 18, 19 potential assists consistently now over that time frame. And seems like that's what he's doing. Look, it's you get that from players sometimes where they go into that mode of like, LeBron does it. We see him be like, I'm going to facilitate. I'm going to make sure this offense is humming. And it seems like that's what Trey has done. It's not been an amazing offense. You pointed it out in best bets. It's been choppy as hell since Trey's come back, and they're trying to figure stuff out. But the one thing that has not waned is his assists, where Chicago does it. They're in the bottom 5, giving up assists to point guards. They're going to be, if you look at courtside Pal, which I love to bring up, they are going to be giving up the fifth most assists to his playmaking profile. So like the type of player that he is, playing off of that pick and roll, they don't give up points to the pick and roll ball handler. They give up assists. So that's what I'll just continue to follow that trend. 10.5. I thought this could have been 11.5 or even 12.5 juiced way to the under, but like still 12.5 could have been there as well. And I would have been like, I mean, I kind of get it. He's gone over 12, multiple times. All except for that one 6 assist game that he's had in his last 5 versus this team. He's gone over the 12 assists. So at 10.5, like I think we've got a comfortable margin, and he's good for 12 or 13 in this one.
It makes sense why he has high assist numbers against Caruso, because he can't make shots. As I detailed, like his shooting splits are absolutely terrible against Chicago, and that's kind of their scheme with Caruso, is like, let's hound the point guard, get the ball out of his hands, and Trey is good enough to make a pass that will get you a potential assist out of that type of coverage. Yeah, it's crazy to see him have like 18 potential assists when he's only playing like 27 minutes so far in these 3 games back. So right. It did definitely go up with more playing time. I'm gonna stick in this game, go under 4.5 rebounds for Kobe White. Plus 105 is a good juice you get there at MGM. I mean, initially was going to add the assists here to make it 9.5 rebounds and assists, but I'm a little worried about the fact that he has like doubled the number of potential assists as he's actually had in the last 8 games here. We'll still say like his touches are way down the stretch here, as he's played way more minutes than he's ever had to deal with in his career. He's behind, Alex Caruso in touches and Ayo Dosunmu, but also has the second lowest rebound chance on the team, lowest among all starters, averaging 3.1 boards in 35 minutes. And his average rebound distance is over 10 feet. So if it's anywhere inside the actual painted area, like, I mean, the Bulls have way bigger guys who are excellent rebounders in Vooch and Drummond, who are just going to gobble that up. And Kobe is not even remotely tasked with crashing the boards, especially if he's matched up on Trae Young at times, right? Trae, as soon as he gives the ball up, is just drifting around at like 30 feet. So like you basically need a rebound to kick all the way out there by accident for him to get those boards. Last time he faced the Hawks, he was able to score a lot more, which is why I kind of like fading the assists as well. The Hawks are allowing 28 points to point guards in their last 15. Kobe goes for 22 on 21 shots the last time these teams met. Only 3 rebounds and 3 assists, though. And his usage is a little higher at home, but his peripheral stats are down. And the Bulls' offense overall has shot worse at home lately, which is another reason to consider the assists. But really, I think the rebounds is what I'm fading here, unless you want to lump them both together.
Yeah. No, I mean, either way, honestly, I get where you're coming from, because you get the juice for the rebounds. And if that's the stat you like more, then you might as well go for it. If you do throw the assists in, I don't know. I'm not really worried about that as either. I think going for the better odds is fine. But yeah, I have no problem with if you add the 4.5 assists, because I do, like you said, feel comfortable with the rebounds. I don't think you have as much of it's a little bit more of an outlier, in my opinion, the chance that he goes over on the boards in general. So it would have to be one of those like sort of, okay, well, there's a lot of long rebounds coming from this Hawks team, and he happens to be pulling those down. But either way, yeah, I think both bets are fine because of the better odds you get anyway for the under on the boards. But I'm going to close out with another under and take under on Bam's points, rebounds, and assists combo here. He's playing against Embiid. It's just not something that he does. This is really, really high, and I'm not totally sure why. This Philly team has been incredible, limiting assists. I mean, look, and also like I understand that some of the data for the recent Philly defense numbers, as I mentioned in best bets, is due to them playing just awful competition in the last, since Embiid came back. Really, I'm sure they were very happy to bring him back against like Detroit and Brooklyn and Memphis, etc., and ease him back into things. But he's still back in a way that is so obvious on defense, where they've now got like, and it was always obvious. Like as soon as he went out, they went from basically the best defensive team down low to middle of the pack to below average at best. And once you exchange Joel for like B-ball Paul and company, it's going to be a little bit different. But he's gone under in his last 8 versus Philly where Embiid's played. He's gotten over 30 PRA once, and he got 32 in that time frame, and that includes 4 playoff games in there as well from a couple of seasons ago now. But in this time frame of those 8 games, he's averaging 21.2 PRA combined in 31 minutes per game against Joel and company. And like I said, only reached those PRA of 30 once. The stuff for Joel since he's come back, like I said, there's not really been a down low presence that you would be worried about scoring against Philly anyway. But they just played, right? And he went under then against Philly. And in Joel's return, they're 5-0 now with the second best defensive rating. Again, taking it with a little bit of grain of salt, but still like second best defensive rating where they've really locked in because everybody else is free to kind of do their thing. They don't need on defense for Philly when Joel's in there. He's basically just guarding a whole area of space that is his. And if anybody comes in it, he can guard 2 people at that point, right? Like he's quick enough to just get those blocks off of Bam. So the assists from Bam, where a lot of those come from the extended paint, right? That's where he works most of his stuff. And that's exactly where Joel wants to stay. He doesn't want to have to go out to the 3-point line. That's when you can put him in a little bit more trouble, is when you have like a center who can shoot threes and stuff like that. But once you keep Bam right around the extended free throw line and in, like that's where Joel's going to live. And that's where this Philly team has had the second best defensive effective field goal percentage against shooters in general. But then you get down into the paint, and they're either the first or best at limiting field goals inside the paint. Also, when you filter that down to just inside of 5 feet and right next to the rim, they have the second best rim defensive field goal percentage now with Joel back, and that's been the case even when he was in. Like you can also go back and just filter the time frame of defense for like the first month or 2 of the season when Joel was playing every game, and that's exactly what you saw. Regardless of who they were playing, nobody came down low, other than like a Jokic, obviously, but even AD has struggled against him. And so for Bam, like there's going to be other playmakers out there at this point now that most of these guys are back. Obviously, if Rozier and Duncan are not in, I think that probably has a lot to do with these books putting Bam at 32.5. Is if you don't believe both those guys are going to play, all right, there's a little bit more ball for Bam to have and usage and percentage of possessions that he's going to be a lot more involved. So I understand that, and I do like an over, but it's interesting because the points are only at 17.5, and like he could do that if he hits those little bunnies, right? Like that'll be there for him more than the rebounds and assists. But I think once you add the rebounds and assists combined, like he can't do all of it. He's going to have to choose which one. And I think Joel will be taking away his, the assists. If he's standing about 10 to 15 feet from the basket, Joel's taking away his assists and he can have that jump shot. Once he gets inside the paint, he got nothing. Like there's no backing down Joel from that point. Once you're Bam, that's not his game anyway. He's facing the basket, which is why he gets a few more assists. But still, like I said, I don't think you can get all of that, especially if he's playing, 32 minutes, which is what he's averaged. Like, I don't know. I guess he could play a few more minutes, but I still have him projected right around 32. He's averaged 30 minutes per game against this Philly team, even including those playoff games against Joel a couple seasons ago. So the usage won't be there. Like I said, all of the assists combined, I don't think all the stats combined, rather, I don't think he can pull all of them off.
Yeah, I mean, because so much of what he does does not show up in the stat sheet. And yeah, he might be playing a ton of minutes, but what the Heat need for him to be successful is to work on defense. And the games they've actually won against the Sixers, it's not because Bam is putting up huge offensive numbers. And you even look at these last 4 playoff games you mentioned from 2022. After a hotter start to the series, his last 4, he only had a 17% usage rate, only averaged 20 PRA. And was still a plus 15 on the floor there. So doing his job on both ends and facilitating, but not necessarily getting the counting stats.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, this is not a disparagement of Bam and his game. It's just going up against probably the best rim protector in the league is gonna afford him some problems. So that is all the time we have for you in player props. Though, continue to follow along. We have also, I should mention, some futures videos right before these all these series kick off. So we do have a bit of those series prices and some bets that Nate and I made there. So definitely want to check that out, as well as those Western Conference games if you haven't checked them out as well. We'll be back each and every weekday moving forward. So until we see you next. Happy betting.